Mr. Özal, thank you so much for taking the time today. Christian spoke with Mr. Imamolu back in 2019 when he was first elected mayor, and given the massive protests and the arrests over the weekend, we thought it was very important to return to this subject matter today. We know that Mr. Imamolu is viewed as your party's rising star, the most significant rival to President Erdogan. You've called his arrest last week a coup against Turkey's next president. How much of a political earthquake to Turkey's democracy is what we're seeing right now?
Çok teşekkür ediyorum.
Well, thank you very much for your sensitivity as well as for your interest into this topic.
Bazı ülkelerde olmayan
Because democracy
istifade ettiği ama
is present in some countries, but not in some countries.
gerçeklik olmamalıdır.
So there shouldn't be democracy shouldn't have a different interpretation. In other words, and it is therefore all those people defending democracy. They would always love to be managed by those people who they have elected. And in Turkey as well, people are always asking for an equal opportunities for the elections, and they would like to see these elections to take place in a justice.
Recep Tayyip Erdoğan
And in Turkey,
bundan yıllar
Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, many years ago, like 30 years ago,
kendi siyasi
during his run for the mayorship of Istanbul, he got the first win of his political run. And before that, he has always been defeated. And after his mayorship of Istanbul municipality,
saklandı.
and he was also banned for a certain period of time politically from
Partisinin başını
the mayorship of Istanbul.
ülkeyi
And he was still chairing his party. However, he wasn't able to get
o tarihlerde
the power
bizim
to run the country.
partisi
And our party, CHP,
kurulması için anayasa değişikliği
and proposed for a change of constitution to remove his ban, because if a leader of leadership of a party is making this man as the first man, this man should also be the ruling.
o olmalıdır.
So who should be he should be the president, because whoever the people is asking for, that person should be the president. Because if this person is elected as president, then we can call it a democracy. And from that point on, Erdogan has entered into lots of elections. So did we. And after Erdogan established his party, political party, for about now 22 years, he has been winning almost in all of the elections, increasing his power in each of those elections. And as a result of these 22 years of his rule, the last year,
31 Mart seçimlerinde
the local elections which took part in the 31st of March,
şehirlerde
under my leadership, our candidate, our nominee was Ekrem İmamoğlu. We really had strong candidates. And CHP has completed the local elections as the winning party, as the number one party. And Erdogan, he lost his non-defeated status, and he has become the second party,
İmamoğlu'nun
which also puts us in a leading position. And this was not the first time Imamoglu defeated Erdogan. So an acceleration in popularity of Imamolu is very clear. And Erdogan always says a very prominent word: whoever wins Istanbul wins Turkey. Whoever loses Istanbul loses Turkey.
tespitle
Yeah, there are thousands of people who have turned out to protest. The question is whether these protests will fizzle after a certain period of time, given the heavy-handedness of the Erdogan government right now, or continue. I do want to ask you, though, because Mr. Imamolu was arrested for a number of charges, including leading a crime organization, abetting a terrorist group, and bribery. Both Imamolu and your party say these charges are completely political. Now, government officials say his arrest shows that nobody in Turkey is above the law and that the country's courts are independent. In your view, in present-day Turkey under the leadership of President Erdogan, are the courts independent?
asla ve asla şu an Türkiye'nin tarafsız olduğunu
I cannot say that the courts are independent, not even as the main opposition leader. If you make a survey in Turkey, you can see only 18% of the people believe that the judiciary is independent in Turkey. Nobody has a trust to the justice system in Turkey. And
aday olmasaydı.
if Imamolu didn't run for the candidacy in content against Erdogan
Türkiye'de
he wouldn't have
yargı maalesef yok.
had all this happening to him today. Unfortunately, there is no independent judiciary in Turkey, and we have been working really hard to make the judiciary independent. We love our country. We defend our country's
Olmamasını
interests. We would like our country to be integrated with the West, and to be a strong ally to NATO.
sürdürmesi
And we would like our country to have an increased and improved relationship with all these organizations. However, Erdogan is trying to dismantle Turkey from these organizations, and he's trying to drift Turkey to an unlawful pathway.
ildeki 10 milyonlarca
And as you can see, 10 millions of people in 81 provinces, or millions of people demonstrating in Istanbul, their main motivation is to respect the justice system, to own the democracy, to defend the democracy, and to preserve their rights.
Is it your view that the United States upholds the democratic process in Turkey as a top priority as well? And I ask this because over the weekend, U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff said that President Trump and President Erdogan spoke recently and had a very good conversation that was transformational. And in addition to that, we know that Marco Rubio is going to be meeting with the foreign minister of Turkey tomorrow. Turkey is a strategic ally, as you know, to the United States and NATO, both in the Middle East, but obviously as it applies to the war in Ukraine. What would you like the United States to do in response to the events we've seen unfolding over the last few days?
ben ister Amerika Birleşik Devletleri olsun, ister
Well,
Avrupa
whether it is US or EU or other democracies or other allies of Turkey around the world,
bir müttefiklik ilişkisine uygun açık ilişkilerin ve diyalogların
I have always defended, and I believe that open relationship to support this relationship has always been good. So I am not concerned with the fact that the foreign minister is going to meet Mr. Marco Rubio tomorrow, or neither Erdogan's meeting with Trump. However, Erdogan, unless he and defines democracy, and if he signs some contracts that works for the favor of himself, would damage both of the countries' future interests. It is not going to work for the interest of both of the countries. So these conversations, bilateral relations, and dialogues should continue for the interest of both countries, but this should also support drifting Turkey to the democratic pathway as well. A sustainable and a strong Turkey is important. However, without democracy, then there is no value. Democracy should always be the priority, and we wouldn't find it plausible to have some unilateral benefits. We see United States as well as Russia as very important strategic allies. And the founder of this country, or our country, Gazi Mustafa Kemal Atatürk,
işgalden kurtardığı Kurtuluş Savaşı'ndan sonra
in the War of Independence, after winning Turkey from the occupation of 7 different countries, he didn't say that we are going to be the strongest country in the world. He said that there's going to be peace at home and peace in the world. So we are a representative of a democratic party, and so in Turkey we have a peace in our DNAs.
Mr. Özel, I appreciate the time today. Thank you so much for the interview.
ben de teşekkür ederim. Başarılı yayınlar diliyorum.
I thank you very much, and all the success.